Okay, so we are going to do 2 example problems together on graphing in standard form. So remember standard form, we just would have reviewed this, but standard form is anything in the form of y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So a always goes with the variable that's squared, b always goes with the variable that's just a singular x, and then c is the one that's just a coefficient. So in this case, I'm going to look at this equation right now, and this is definitely in standard form. I have an x squared, an x, and a 3, and there's no parentheses or anything. So a is going to equal -1, and a is just the coefficient in front of x squared. And in this case, it's just a -1. B is 2, that's the coefficient in front of just the x. And then c is the coefficient without any variables. So the first thing I need to do when I graph in standard form is I need to find out what the vertex is. And so the way I do that is I use this formula. I'm going to just kind of square this off to the side, but I use the formula -b over 2a. And that will tell me technically that will tell me what my axis of symmetry is. So my axis of symmetry, I use this formula right here. And my axis of symmetry is the x value of my vertex. So it's -b over 2a. So I'm going to take my b value, which is 2, and I'm going to do -2 over 2 divided by -1. That will give me -2 over -2, which will give me 1. So that means that the x value of my vertex is at 1, but mainly what that'll tell me first is that my axis of symmetry goes through 1. And that is where my graph splits in half. So basically anything on the left side is going to be a mirror of anything on the right side. So this is my x value. So x equals 1 is my axis of symmetry. And that tells me what my x value is. But now I need to actually find my vertex. So what I'll do is I'll plug in 1 for x in that equation, and that will give me y. So I'll get y equals -1 squared plus 2 times 1 plus 3, which equals -1 plus 2 plus 3, which should be 4. So that means that my vertex is 1, 4. And I will put that on the graph. So that goes right here. And then the next thing I need to do is plot my y-intercept, and my y-intercept is always my c value. So it's just 0, 3. 1, 2, 3. And since my axis of symmetry mirrors everything, then I'm just going to mirror my y-intercept over so it completely matches. And then I have graphed my first quadratic in standard form. If you need more time with that, pause. But if not, I'm going to move on to the next one. So you might look at this next one and be like, this isn't in standard form. One, it's x values, or it's t values instead of x values. And also there's only 2 terms instead of 3. That is okay. It's okay that we're using a t instead of an x. It's just a different variable. And it's also okay that there is no third term. The third term that we're missing is just the regular coefficient. So right now we know that a equals 1 because that's what's in front of t squared. So there's nothing there, which just means it's a 1. And then b equals 3 because that's what's in front of the t, and then there's nothing over here. And when there's nothing there, that just means it's basically plus 0. So our c value equals 0. So if you ever see something like this where there's only 2 terms and we already have the t squared and we already have just the regular t, that means our coefficient slash our c value is just 0. So we'll proceed like normal. The very first thing we're going to find is our axis of symmetry. I'm just going to write AOS, and I'm again going to use -b over 2a. And that will be -3 over 2 divided by 1. That equals -3 halves, which is just -1.5. So that's my axis of symmetry. So that will be at -1.5. So basically this is the line where my graph is going to mirror. And then I need to find my vertex. So I'm going to put it back in fraction form because I find that a little easier to multiply. But I'm going to plug in -3 halves for t. And then I'm not going to add that plus 0. I don't need it, but it was just nice for me to know. Negative 3/2 squared is 9/4. And then 3 times negative 3/2 would be negative 9 squared. And then you can use a calculator at this point, but I don't have one right here. So this would be 9/4 minus 18/4. So that would give me negative 9/4. I think, so let me just check over that real quick. That looks good, which is not, obviously it's not a super pretty fraction, but that simplifies to negative 2 1/4, I believe. So my vertex is going to be at negative 1 1/2 and negative 2 1/4. So right here, not beautiful, but it's okay. And then the C value matters here because we need to know what our y-intercept is. And so that just means our y-intercept is 0, 0. So 0, 0 is right here. And then again, I'm going to mirror. So I kind of have to go 1 1/2 from there. So that'll be there. And then I will connect all my dots and I have my quadratic and standard form. So pause if you need more time. Feel free to ask me any questions, but that is how you graph in standard form.